Chapter 2: A Deadly Encounter. Jack had been walking for hours, the sun beating down on him relentlessly. The wasteland was changing, becoming even more desolate than before. The landscape was barren, with little sign of life anywhere. The only sounds were the distant cawing of mutant birds and the rustling of the dry, dusty ground beneath his feet. Jack kept his guard up, scanning the horizon for any sign of danger. He knew all too well the threats that lurked in this world. Mutants roamed freely, and bandits were always looking for their next victim. Jack had to be cautious if he wanted to survive. He spotted a group of mutants in the distance, their twisted bodies writhing and contorting in unnatural ways. Jack could feel his heart racing as he watched them, ready to run if they caught his scent. He moved silently, trying to avoid detection. The land was changing, becoming more barren by the day. The radiation had taken its toll on everything, and even the air felt thick with danger. Jack felt like he was constantly walking through a minefield, never knowing when something might explode. He had to be careful not to get caught in the open during the psi storms, when the winds would whip up radioactive particles and send them flying through the air. The storms were a constant threat, and Jack had seen their devastating effects firsthand. As he continued on his journey, Jack felt a mix of fear and excitement. He knew he was getting closer to his destination, but he also knew that the dangers were increasing with every step. The wasteland was unforgiving, but Jack was determined to survive no matter what. Jack continues on his journey, his senses on high alert. The sun beats down on him relentlessly, and his throat is parched from the lack of water. He keeps his eyes peeled for any sign of water or shelter, but all he sees is a desolate landscape of dirt and debris. As he walks, he notices a group of mutants in the distance, scavenging for food. Their grotesque appearances make him shudder, and he quickly moves in the opposite direction. The mutants are just one of the many dangers in the wasteland. There are also bandits, other hostile factions, and the unpredictable storms. Jack knows he needs to be careful, as even a small misstep can lead to his demise. He stops for a moment to catch his breath and check his map, but as he looks up, he sees a group of bandits approaching him. His heart races as he reaches for his weapon, ready to defend himself. The bandits are heavily armed, and Jack knows he doesn't stand a chance against them. He tries to back away slowly, but they move in closer. Suddenly, a loud noise echoes through the air, causing the bandits to turn their attention away from Jack. He takes this opportunity to flee, running as fast as he can in the opposite direction. He doesn't stop until he's far away from the bandits, his heart still racing. The wasteland is a harsh and unforgiving place, and Jack knows that he needs to stay one step ahead of his enemies if he wants to survive. Jack ran through the debris, his heart pounding in his chest. He knew he had to keep moving, had to find a way out of the city before the bandits caught up with him. He could hear their footsteps pounding on the ground behind him, their voices shouting to each other, trying to coordinate their attack. As he sprinted through the rubble, Jack saw movement out of the corner of his eye. He turned to look and saw a mutant lumbering towards him, its mutated limbs dragging behind it as it howled in fury. Jack raised his rifle and fired, the shot echoing through the city. The mutant stumbled and fell, but Jack didn't stop to watch. He had bigger problems to deal with. The bandits were getting closer, and he needed to find a place to hide. He ducked into a ruined building, taking cover behind a fallen wall. The bandits were getting closer, and he could hear their footsteps pounding on the ground outside. He could see their shadows moving on the other side of the wall, could hear them shouting to each other as they searched for him. Jack's heart was pounding in his chest. He had to keep moving, had to find a way out of the city before it was too late. But where could he go? The bandits were everywhere, and he was trapped. As he crouched there in the shadows, Jack heard a sound that made his blood run cold. It was the sound of a landmine being triggered, followed by the deafening blast of an explosion. The debris settled, and Jack saw the bandit who had been chasing him lying on the ground, his body torn apart by the blast. Jack raised his rifle and scanned the area, looking for any sign of the other bandits. He saw movement in the distance, and he fired 2 shots, watching as the other bandits dropped one by one. The gunfire echoed through the city, but Jack didn't care. He had survived, and he would keep surviving no matter what the wasteland threw at him. As Jack takes cover again, he hears footsteps approaching from behind. He turns around quickly, ready to take out whoever is coming towards him. To his surprise, he sees 2 figures, 2 young women, armed with rifles. They look at him with a mix of caution and hope. "Who are you? And what are you doing here?" Jack asks, keeping his gun trained on them. The 2 women introduce themselves as Riley and Sarah. They explain that they are sisters, and that they have been struggling to survive in the wasteland. They had seen the bandits chasing after Jack, and decided to help him out. "We saw that you were in trouble, so we took out those last 2 bandits for you," Riley says. "We thought that maybe you could help us out too. We could use a partner in this mess." Jack considers their offer. He knows that it's dangerous to travel alone in the zone, and having allies could improve his chances of survival. Plus, these 2 seem capable and trustworthy. The noise that made Jack turn around was a distant rumble, like the growl of a thunderstorm rolling over the hills. But it wasn't the sound of a storm. It was the sound of an engine. As Jack peeked over his cover, he saw a battered truck emerge from the haze of the wasteland, bouncing over the debris-strewn terrain with a reckless abandon. The truck was covered in scrap metal armor and adorned with makeshift spikes and blades. It looked like something out of a post-apocalyptic nightmare. Jack was about to take a shot at the truck when he heard a voice behind him. "Hey, you need a ride?" He turned around to see 2 young women standing a few feet away. They were both armed, but didn't seem hostile. In fact, they looked downright desperate. One of the women, a blonde with piercing blue eyes, spoke up again. "We saw you fighting those bandits. We could use someone like you on our team. We'll even give you a lift out of here." Jack was hesitant. He had been on his own for so long, he wasn't sure he could trust anyone anymore. But as the sound of the truck grew closer, and the bandits closed in on his position, he knew he didn't have much choice. "All right," he said, shouldering his rifle. "Let's go." The 3 of them sprinted toward the truck, dodging bullets and shrapnel as they went. As they climbed aboard, Jack couldn't help but feel like he was jumping from the frying pan into the fire. But at least he had some backup now. And maybe, just maybe, he'd find a way to survive in this wasteland. Hope you like Chapter 2. For more content, please like, follow, and subscribe. Please leave a comment below and let me know what you think.